It happened on a night that was supposed to be ordinary. We were at a dinner party with close friends, laughter echoing around the table, wine glasses clinking. I thought everything was fine, until she leaned back in her chair, smirked, and dropped a line that froze the entire room. At least my ex had a bigger one. At first, I thought I'd misheard her. But then I saw the way her friend's eyes widened, how one of the guys awkwardly coughed into his drink, how the women exchanged glances. And there she sat, my wife, the woman I had trusted with every ounce of my heart, grinning like she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. The blood drained from my face. My chest tightened. I could feel every eye at that table shift toward me, waiting for my reaction, waiting to see if I'd explode, or crumble, or both. And you know what I did? I laughed. A hollow, brittle laugh that didn't sound like me at all. I smiled, forced out some comment about her terrible sense of humor, and tried to keep the night moving. But inside I was shattered. That one sentence sliced through my pride, my love, my dignity. It wasn't just a joke. It was a knife twisted in front of an audience. I didn't realize it then, but that cruel little smirk wasn't just her being playful. It was a warning. But little did I know, that one so-called joke was just the first crack in a much darker truth. We met in college, back when life felt simple and the future looked wide open. She was the kind of girl who walked into a room and instantly had everyone's attention. Charming, ambitious, quick with a laugh. I was the steady one, the dependable one. She liked to joke that I was her anchor, the calm in her storm. And honestly, I wore that title with pride. What started as late-night study sessions and coffee runs turned into a whirlwind romance. She dreamed big, talked about traveling the world, chasing passions, living without limits. I believed in her maybe more than she believed in herself. So when graduation came, I chose stability. I took a steady job, long hours, grinding day after day, so she could have the freedom to chase her dreams. In my mind, that's what love meant, sacrifice. But looking back, I realized the cracks were there early on. She would make little dismissive comments about me being too safe or not adventurous enough. She lied about small things, white lies about where she'd been or who she'd been with. I'd catch her laughing a little too freely with her guy friends, touching their arms, basking in their attention. My gut twisted, but I shoved it down. I told myself I was being insecure. I didn't want to be that controlling, jealous boyfriend. So I kept working, kept providing, kept loving her even harder, thinking loyalty would prove my worth. But something shifted. The more I gave, the more she seemed to look down on me. It wasn't long before comparisons slipped into conversation. Some celebrity, some friend's boyfriend, even her ex. There was always someone who was smarter, funnier, richer. And me? I swallowed it. I told myself she didn't mean it, that she was just teasing. I wanted to be the good husband, the patient partner. I thought those little red flags were harmless, until they turned into flashing sirens I couldn't ignore. If that first joke cut deep, the weeks that followed were a slow bleed. It didn't stop there, far from it. She seemed to take a strange pleasure in belittling me, especially when others were around to hear it. At dinners, she'd roll her eyes at my opinions, laughing as if I were some clueless child. At bars, she'd flirt openly, leaning into other men's shoulders, letting her hand linger too long on their arms. I'd sit there, holding my drink, pretending not to notice while my insides burned. Then came the phone, always flipped face down, always glued to her side. If I so much as glanced toward it, she'd snap, "Don't you trust me?" Her excuses piled up, late nights for girls' night, last-minute work emergencies. And when I finally caught her one night, sitting on the edge of the bed, typing furiously at 2 a.m., I asked, "Who are you texting?" Without even looking up, she muttered, "You're paranoid. Go back to sleep." But the most humiliating moment? Another group outing, another so-called joke. Right in the middle of the laughter, she leaned over, smirking, and said, "Well, my ex was better at keeping me satisfied." Everyone went silent before awkward chuckles filled the air. My face burned, but once again, I forced a laugh, swallowed my pride, and let her walk all over me. It only got worse. She started going on business trips that didn't add up. Her intimacy with me vanished overnight. I'd reach for her, and she'd turn away, muttering about being tired. That gut feeling I'd buried for years was now screaming at me. So I started looking. I didn't want to, but I couldn't take the lies anymore. And what I found ripped away the last of my denial. Hidden in the Uber app were receipts to places she had no reason to be, late-night rides to hotels. In her messages, a contact saved as Jessica. But Jessica wasn't a woman. The messages were full of pet names. Late night, "I miss you" confessions, things no friend would ever say. My chest tightened as I scrolled, but strangely, I didn't explode. Not yet. I closed the phone, put it back exactly how she left it, and went to bed. That night, staring at the ceiling, I made a choice. I wasn't going to confront her immediately. No screaming match, no desperate pleas. If she thought I was weak, I'd let her believe it, just long enough for me to see how far she would go. So I bottled it up. I smiled when she walked through the door after work. I kissed her cheek when she claimed she was heading out with friends. I played the role of the clueless husband, all the while waiting, watching, testing her loyalty. Deep down, though, a storm was building inside me. And then, one night, I finally caught her red-handed, and she had no idea what was coming. It was a Friday night when the lie unraveled. She told me she was heading out with the girls, just dinner and a few drinks, but something in her tone didn't sit right. I'd heard it too many times, and every time, my gut screamed louder. This time, I decided not to sit at home and torture myself. I followed her. I kept a safe distance as she drove across town, my heart pounding against the steering wheel. Instead of pulling into the trendy restaurant she'd named, she drove straight to a hotel. My hands tightened. She parked, checked her makeup in the mirror, and stepped inside. Minutes later, a man I'd never seen before joined her. My chest burned, but I didn't storm in. No shouting, no fists through walls. I stayed in the shadows, watching my marriage collapse in silence. I sat in my car for hours, the glow of the hotel entrance burning into my memory. When she finally came out, hair tousled, smile smug, I drove home ahead of her. I slipped into bed, pretending to be asleep. When she crawled in beside me, reeking of perfume that wasn't hers, I didn't move. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling a switch flip inside me. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to break down. No, I was going to end this on my terms. The very next evening, we were at dinner again, surrounded by friends. She was in rare form, soaking up attention, tossing around little digs at me as if humiliating me had become her favorite game. And then she did it, that same cruel smirk, that same venomous line, twisted just enough to make everyone squirm. At least my ex knew how to keep me satisfied. The table went still. My friends stared at their plates, unwilling to look me in the eye. And for the first time, I didn't force a laugh. I leaned back in my chair, calm, collected, every word sharpened like a blade. "Funny," I said, my voice steady. "Your ex may have been bigger, but at least he didn't need to fake business trips just to keep you satisfied." The silence that followed was deafening. Forks clattered against plates. My wife's face drained of color, her smirk collapsing into horror. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I didn't stop there. I told them everything, the late-night texts, the Uber receipts, the fake contact saved as Jessica, the hotel. Every secret she thought she had carefully hidden, I laid out like evidence in a trial. Her friends gasped. One of the women muttered, "Oh my God!" The men shifted uncomfortably, some glaring at her with disgust. Tears welled up in her eyes. She reached for me across the table, her voice cracking. "Please stop. Don't ruin my reputation. This isn't what it looks like." But everyone already knew. Her reputation wasn't being ruined by me. It was being ruined by her own choices. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing, whispering apologies that sounded more like desperation than regret. I sat there, calm as ever, letting her cry, letting her feel the weight of every public humiliation she had thrown on me. For the first time in years, I felt the balance shift. I wasn't the broken one anymore. I wasn't the man swallowing his pride just to keep the peace. I was the one holding the truth, and I had delivered it with precision. And as I stood up from that table, ready to walk out, I realized this wasn't the end. This was just the spark. But that was only the beginning of her downfall, because the fallout spread faster than either of us expected. The fallout was instant. Word spread like wildfire through our friend group. By the next morning, I was already getting texts from people who hadn't even been at the dinner. Screenshots, retellings, whispers. Her betrayal became the story everyone was talking about. And for once, I wasn't the one being laughed at. She was. Friends who had always been polite but distant suddenly reached out to me. "Man, I always thought something was off with her. You didn't deserve that." Another wrote, "Bro, you're a legend for exposing her calmly like that." That line, iconic, felt strange, receiving validation after years of humiliation. People saw me not as the fool, but as the guy who finally stood up for himself. Her arrogance, the smirks, the cruel jokes, it all caught up with her. Friends stopped inviting her out. Group chats went silent when she joined. Even her closest confidants pulled away, disgusted by the way she had humiliated me for sport. Then came the call from her parents. Her mother's voice trembled with shame. "We raised her better than this. I'm so sorry for what she did to you." Her father, never one for long speeches, simply said, "You didn't deserve it, son." Hearing those words from the very people who should have been defending her was surreal. Meanwhile, she scrambled to do damage control. Late-night texts begging me to forgive her. It was just a mistake, a phase. Please, don't throw everything away over this. She even showed up at the apartment with tear-streaked makeup, swearing she'd change. But every word sounded hollow, because I remembered every smirk, every jab, every time she'd made me the punchline of her cruel jokes. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a pattern. And for once, I wasn't willing to excuse it, so I packed my bags, calmly. No yelling, no drama. Just quiet finality. As I zipped the last suitcase, she clung to my arm, sobbing. "Please don't leave me like this. We can fix it." But I didn't even look back. I walked out with dignity, my head high, knowing she would have to sit in the wreckage she created. And as I walked away from the wreckage of our marriage, I realized something I should have seen years ago. When I finally closed the door on that chapter of my life, I expected to feel hollow. Strangely, I felt lighter than I had in years. The silence in my new place wasn't loneliness, it was peace. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe without wondering what new way she might find to tear me down. I spent weeks replaying everything in my head, every red flag I had brushed aside, every cruel joke I had laughed off just to keep the peace. And the truth hit me. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's poison. And I had been drinking it slowly, convincing myself it was medicine. My loyalty wasn't weakness, but it was wasted. I gave everything to someone who thrived on humiliation, who fed her ego by cutting me down. That's not partnership, that's parasitism. Walking away wasn't just leaving her. It was reclaiming myself, my self-respect, my dignity, my future. I realized that being alone is never as painful as being with someone who makes you feel small. If there's one lesson I've taken from this, it's this: never let someone treat your pain like a punchline. If they laugh at your scars, don't give them another chance to write the next joke. She thought her words had broken me, that I'd always stay, no matter how deep the cuts. But in the end, her cruelty gave me the clarity I needed. So when she joked about her ex being bigger, she thought she broke me. But in reality, that was the joke that set me free.